In this video, we're going to talk about coping with difficult things. So first, we're going to define what coping actually is, and then we're going to look at some common negative coping strategies that people use. Then we'll look at some positive, better for you strategies, and then finally, I'm going to share with you a couple good and bad ones that are true in my life.
Few things are as powerful.
If you're new here, welcome. My name is April Hardy. On this channel, we educate people about domestic violence, including how to break free from it and how to thrive after it. So the logical progression of things is to tell you a really difficult type of definition for something and then make it simple so that you understand it. Am I going to do that? No. When I was looking at these definitions, the simple one seems really simple. It doesn't give me enough information, I don't feel like. And the difficult one or the bigger one does. So we're gonna start with the easy one. The easy definition of coping, okay, is mental and behavioral things that we do in response to stressful or difficult circumstances or experiences. That's basically what I came up with. Those experiences or circumstances can be external out in the world, or they can be internal going on inside of you. But the definition that I really liked when I was looking at this is from the psychology glossary at allydog.com. It says, quote, coping refers to the human behavioral process for dealing with demands, both internal and external, in situations that are perceived as threats. It doesn't just mean physical threats, and that's why I like it. That's why I value it. So we're going to look at that just a little bit. So threats are not only situations in which we're in physical danger, but they are also situations where a part of ourself is in danger. So that means your ego, your sense of self, your identity, your worldview, and even your beliefs. Any of those things, when they're threatened, require some kind of coping mechanism, coping skill, coping process. You know, if I believe that the world is flat and everywhere I turn, pun intended, people are telling me, no, the world is round, it's not flat, then that's going to cause some internal things in me while I'm battling out whether or not I agree with them or I'm going to hold to my beliefs. And there's some coping that's going to go in there, right? So coping strategies, which is the main bulk of what we're going to talk about today. They're things to deal with stress, problems, uncomfortable emotions. They can be conscious or unconscious, can be either positive or negative. They are also called healthy and unhealthy, or helpful and destructive. Those are a couple of different terms that mean the same thing. Healthy, positive, helpful. Unhealthy, negative, destructive. Following me? So unhealthy coping strategies tend to feel good in the moment, but they tend to give negative consequences later. An easy example of that would be alcohol abuse, right? Or drug abuse. Either of those can take away that sting of discomfort or pain or irritation or whatever it is that they're trying to deal with through that in that moment. But obviously, if you drink for years and years or you use drugs for years and years, that's not going to be good for you, right? It's going to have negative consequences. Some other negative coping strategies would include overeating, overspending, procrastination, sleeping too much or too little, social withdrawal. I have no idea why I'm counting those on my fingers. You can't even see them. Self-harm, agitation, repression, somatization. So, most of these are pretty easy to understand. Overeating, overspending. Some people call it retail therapy, right? When they just go out and blow money because it makes them feel good in that moment. There's a high there, and they can forget about what they were dealing with until they bring the bags home. Until they get the stuff home and they're like, probably didn't need that. I got more debt. And whatever that thing was that I was dealing with before is still there. It didn't change. It didn't go away. I'm not dealing with it any better. Procrastination. Some people just avoid. There's a whole bunch of different avoidance coping strategies. Procrastination is one of them. I know people who, I call them ostriches. They just put their head in the sand and literally will not acknowledge things when they're not the way that they want them to be, because they just don't know how to handle, in a positive way, things that are not what they want. Or procrastinating, just pushing it off till the very last second because you just don't want to deal with it. It's an avoidance technique. Sleeping too much or too little, sometimes that's on purpose and sometimes it's not. So that can be an unconscious thing too. Sometimes when you're stressed out or you're depressed, you just can't sleep like you want to and you're trying to, and it just won't happen. On the other hand, sometimes when people are depressed, all they do is sleep every day, all day, because they don't want to deal with things. That's an avoidance thing. Social withdrawal. That's pushing people away, stopping going to things that were fun, stopping going to things where there are people that you have to deal with. Self-harm can be physical self-harm, like cutting is a really commonly thought of self-harm, but self-harm can also be drinking yourself into oblivion or working yourself into oblivion. Not taking care of yourself, not allowing yourself to sleep, busyness, just going all the time. Those are self-harm also. Dissociation is separating yourself from the reality of what's going on. So like when we watch a movie, if you get really into the movie, you can kind of forget your surroundings, right? Like somebody may be moving over here, or there's noises that are being made that are not major noises and stuff, and you kind of forget where you are and you forget what's going on around you because you're so focused on that movie. You dissociate from your environment, from what's actually going on in real life around you. Well, you can do that outside of movies. People do that when they're driving. That's also really common. Like they'll just drive somewhere and they'll get there and they'll be like, I don't even remember driving here. I'm just here because they were thinking about other stuff on the drive and they dissociated. They just didn't pay attention to where they were at. A little bit of dissociation is normal. The movie thing, it's actually preferable to be able to really get into a story like that. That's fine. People do that with books and things like that, but there is an unhealthy level that you can take that to where you're daydreaming all the time because you just don't want to deal with reality, to the extent of multiple personality, schizophrenia, breakage from dissociation. Avoidance, we kind of talked about that already. Repression, that's another thing. I call repression stuffing. I don't know if that's a common thing or if that's a just around here locally thing, but we call it stuffing. You're stuffing your emotions down. You just don't want to deal with them, so you just keep trying to pile stuff on top of them so that those bad ones are way down there and you don't have to deal with them. You don't have to look at them. However, that leads us to somatization. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it creates somatic issues. That means because you're not allowing your emotional response to come out of your body, it is internalizing in your body. That's what that means. So you can get headaches, stomach aches, muscle tension. Longer term, you can get diabetes, heart issues, other chronic illnesses, weight gain, all these different things, because your emotions are there to allow you to feel and get it out. But if you stuff them and you repress, then your body holds on to it. So that's an unconscious negative coping strategy, in the sense that you don't have control over what your body chooses to do with it. It is conscious in the sense that once you know that it happens and you choose not to deal with your stuff, then you're kind of choosing for that to happen. Before we go further, I would like to know, what is one coping strategy that you were taught growing up? Most of the time, these are not taught like verbally, they're taught by watching. So what was something that was modeled for you as a child as a negative coping strategy? Did you have a parent that drank? Did you have a parent that overate or struggled with money? Or what was your experience? Okay, so let's move on to some positive coping strategies then. Positive coping strategies don't necessarily provide the instant gratification, and that's why a lot of people don't use them or prefer them, but they lead to longer lasting positive consequences in your life. It's kind of like in time management, there's different categories of things. One of them is called urgent, and one of them is called important. And obviously, things that are important are things that you want to get done. However, crisis things seem urgent right now, and so those a lot of times take our attention. And those things don't even have to be important, but they just, oh my gosh, flames right now. And so they take your focus. It's kind of like that with coping strategies too. The negative ones are right now and they can get your focus. But the positive ones, the healthy ones, those are more important. And that takes effort to work on sometimes. I mean, unless you're one of those perfect people that this stuff just comes super easy to, but I'm not. So, examples of healthy coping strategies: exercise, talking about your problems, eating healthy food, seeking professional help, relaxation techniques, using social support, problem solving techniques, crying, helping others, looking for the good in bad situations, growth. We've talked about post traumatic growth before. Spiritual growth is also really common coming out of difficulty. Listening to uplifting music and other content, working in the yard, spending time in nature, etc., etc., etc. There's lots of good things that you can do to deal with negative situations in your life. Exercise is kind of a given. Talking about your problems, that's a good thing. That's an important thing. The key there is to make sure that they're people that are worthy of your trust. And sometimes it's hard to find those. Healthy eating, garbage in, garbage out, right? I mean, the American diet is garbage. It really is. But the stuff that you put into your body really does affect the way you feel. We eat a lot of fast food because our life is fast and we're going all of the time. And I know an awful lot of people that are in that same boat. But it takes a toll on your body. And so when you have that and then you add trauma to it or stress, it's like cutting the legs out from under you. Instead of having good things to be able to deal with that trauma or stress with, you are shooting from a deficit. I don't know if that makes any sense. Seeking professional help. I mean, if you guys have spent any time on this channel at all, then you know that I'm a proponent of counseling. Trauma counseling, specifically when you've dealt with abuse, which is trauma. And it needs to be a counselor that's right for you. And it doesn't have to be a lifetime thing, you know? And I'm okay with meds for a time to help you out as a stepping stone. But the goal is that you process that stuff the way that you should and you learn good coping skills so that you can deal with things that come up in the future. And if you gotta go to a counselor again, like I did trauma therapy a few years ago. I was out for a few years. Life continued on. I've had some new trauma stuff as well as some things that didn't get dealt with before. And so I've started trauma therapy again to finish out some stuff that was before and deal with some new stuff. And then, you know, I have no intention of being in trauma therapy forever. It's a tool. It's a coping strategy. Relaxation techniques. There's a whole bunch of things in that area too. I like 4x4 breathing a lot. That's probably my favorite. You can do deep breathing, belly breathing type of stuff. You can do progressive muscle relaxation and tons of other different relaxation techniques. They're good. Everything is not for everybody. Kind of like the counselors. Find what works for you. Using social support. So, a lot of times when you're depressed or traumatized, your knee-jerk reaction is to move away from people. And in depression in particular, the solution is actually to move towards people, to socialize and to connect with people and to have that social support in place. but the natural response is to move away. So that takes some effort, but it's better for you. It's healthy, it's good. And then problem solving techniques. The more problem solving techniques that you can learn, the more problems in your life you're going to be able to solve, right? Like, it's not like this one trauma or this one crisis or this one stressor is the end of, and from this point forward, everything's going to be happy all the time. That's why I call this tools in your toolbox, because it's a good thing to have. It's accessible because you know it. You've dealt with this. You've learned it. You've practiced it. And when something comes up, then you got it. It's a tool, use it, put it back. And then I added crying because I'm a crier. And that's an excellent way to get the feelings out of your body. You know, we talked about the somatic, holding it in. Flush that crap out. Get it out. It's fine for you to have hurt and to have anger and all of those other feelings. It's fine. Allow it to go out. Helping others. Man, if you take your focus off of your issues for a little while, I mean, that doesn't fix it. If somebody is beating you up regularly, then going and helping somebody else is not necessarily going to make that stop or better. Obviously, actual problems need to be dealt with. But we have a tendency to get in our head and focus on stuff and dwell on stuff, especially when we've been hurt or somebody has stabbed us in the back or things like that, and we'll just stay there if we don't get out of it. And so one of the best ways to do that is to focus on somebody else's for a little while. Go find somebody else who has problems also, whatever problems, preferably problems that you can help with, and do something, because it's going to make you feel powerful, like empowered in your own life. It's going to make you feel good. It's going to take your mind off of your stuff. And sometimes if they have a problem that's bigger than yours, it's going to put yours in perspective. Okay, I have XYZ problem at work and that's driving me bonkers. This person lives in a car. I can buy them dinner. I can hang out with them for a little while. I can let them use my shower, whatever. And then it's like, okay, so-and-so works really freaking annoying, but I have a nice warm bed to go to sleep in tonight. I guess that problem is not that bad. It's a coping skill. It's a good thing. And it's not just good for you, which makes it a great thing. Looking for the good in bad situations. I feel like we were just kind of there, but there's good that comes out of bad situations. What is it in yours? Are you learning patience? Are you learning humility? Are you finding new friends and new support people? There's so many different things. So is there something positive to find in your situation? There isn't always, but it's a good thing to look for. Growth. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Listening to uplifting music and other content. I had a student recently who was like being bullied in school, and she was upset. I mean, bullying sucks, and she was upset. She doesn't feel like she's getting support at home. She's not being cared for at school. And there's all this negative stuff that she's being told. And I was like, okay, what are you doing to put positive things in? Like, are you reading the Bible? Are you listening to good music? Are you listening to inspirational people or good podcasts or good YouTube? Like, there's all kinds of things out there. I'm like, what are you doing to feed your mind in a good way while all of these people are beating it up? And she goes, nothing. And I'm like, I would highly encourage you to start. Like, how do you expect that you're going to be able to deal with all of this crap coming from other people when you're empty? Like, fill yourself up, and then you can know, look, I know who I am. It doesn't matter what you say about who I am, because I already know who I am. But you can't do that on your own. You know, if you're just getting attacked from the world verbally for a long period of time, it's going to wear on you if you're not filling it back up. So I highly encourage that. And then I put working in the yard or any other kind of being out in nature. There's something about being in nature that it just is healing. You know, being around the sound of water is awesome for me. Like moving water. I don't care if it's a waterfall or the ocean or bathtub. Okay, maybe not the bathtub. Could be. You know, but trees, nature, grass, sky, it's just healing somehow. So, what is one positive coping strategy that you want to work on going forward? Either something that I listed here or something that you come up with on your own. Definitely can do research. Thanks for watching. I'll do my part to keep you safe by continuing to put out weekly videos about all things related to intimate partner violence. If you haven't already, please do your part by subscribing to this channel and hitting the notification button so that you don't miss a single video. Bonus points if you share videos with people that you believe will benefit from the information. Until I see you again, stay safe.